Good morning, everybody, and a happy Tuesday to you all. I guess if you're listening to this on Wednesday or Thursday, a happy day to you there as well. This is the Fit in the Form podcast, the second edition of the Awesemo Golf Weekly podcast series, and a new edition, the second week. I'm adding in a video component for all of you that are consuming this content on YouTube. You'll get a good choice to see some of my graphics, my ugly face, my ugly mug, whatever you want to call it, for a little bit. As we go about the Fit in the Form podcast, which pretty much is in its title, you can guess, is I go over the recent form for the golfers in the field, some course history if we have it. This week we do not, and of course how they get it done, some strokes gained in formation, and break it all down for you in this 15-minute pod, maybe a bit shorter here because we don't have course history this week. So let's jump right in. It is the Houston Open this week. My little screen there is blocking, so we're going to pull it off there for a second. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to our videos. Right when this comes live, when my 3-ball betting video comes live, which last week had Wyndham Clark as an each way. Man, that was a brutal beat, but let's get past that. You'll be able to be notified right away. So of course, like and subscribe to see our videos. Okay, let's move on, and now we're going to talk about some recent form here as we march on through the Houston Open. I'm going to bring myself back onto the little screen here so you can see that I haven't disappeared or anything like that. I am still here. So let's start off with the positive side. Top 10s, Dustin Johnson back in the field. He's got 4 top 10s here in the last 11 weeks. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. That's what I look for in recent form. I look for 11 weeks. Also, want to mention before I move on, just a quick little note about the golf course. It is a par 72, 7,400 yards. It has 5 par 5s, 5 par 3s, and 8 par 4s. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I even had a message this morning about somebody looking up the golf course on the websites or Golf Advisor or what have you, and it's listed as a par 71, 7,200 yards. If you haven't seen my other content, what they did is they just switched the first hole from a long par 4 to a short par 5. They moved the tee back 20 or 30 yards to make it about 520 yards. So obviously on the shorter side of par 5s, but it does move the par back up to 72. So expect pretty low scoring because of that. Okay, now let's go back into the recent form. We're going to look at top 10s. Dustin Johnson has 4. James Hahn, he's 3 for his last 3 starts. Russell Henley also has 3. Ty Hatton, Mackenzie Hughes, and Ollie Schneiderjans, also the other golfers with 3 top 10s in the past 10 weeks. 8 more have 2. Now when we switch over to top 25s, Lee Westwood. Man, what a run he's on, and he's going to get to play the Masters for the first time in 3 years. He has 6. Ty Hatton has 5, and 9 others have 4. Next up, we've got Brian Harman and Lee Westwood for cuts made. And when we look at that, because there is a cut, as 132 players with the top 65 and ties making the weekend. So let's take a look and see. Brian Harman and Lee Westwood, they are 7 for 7. Adam Schenk and Victor Hovland, along with Emiliano Grillo and Bo Hostler, they're all 6 for 6. Not the only guys, though, that have made every single cut that they have started in this week. In fact, 19 golfers in the field have made every cut that they've teed it up. And now, granted, Brooks Koepka, he's only played in 1, and it was a no cut. John Haas only played in 1 that was a cut. But regardless, there you go. There's my recent form screen. As you can see, I brought it up on the screen here for you quickly if you are watching on YouTube. Switching over to the negative side, top 10s. Sung J M, as good as he's been, he has no top 10s in the past 10 weeks. And Mark Hubbard, they're 0 for 8. Brian Harman, Tom Hoagie, Tyler Duncan, Carlos Ortiz, KH Lee, they're 0 for 7. Most of them have a top 25, though. Those that don't include Jordan Spieth, Will Gordon, Max Homa, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Tway. We switch over to the cut side. Michael Kim, Bo Hogg, Graham Dillette, Bo Van Pelt, and Martin Trainer really struggling. Michael Kim is 0 for 5. Bo Hogg is 1 for 6. Graham Dillette, Van Pelt, and Trainer are 0 for 4. They are in need of a paycheck here this week in Houston. Okay, let's move on now as I bring up you probably just saw it very briefly there, my graphic that I put out each and every week in the recent form, or I should say the Fit in the Form guide. That is a free article on Awesemo.com, of course. And it's going to give you all of this. So this is just a graphic for you to see. All of the guys, their top 10s, 25s, their times played, percentages in the top 25, missed cuts, cuts made, and the alike. Okay, so now we're going to go into a little bit of strokes gained information. And again, remember that we don't have course history here. This is the first year that the Houston Open is being played here. So, like I said, it's a 132-man field, top 65 in ties making the weekend. I probably said that once or twice already. My apologies. Only 6 golfers of the 132 don't have a stat recorded in my database, or a start, I should say, which means 46 tournament weeks. Of those 46 weeks, Sung J M has started in 37 of them. He is the most by 2. Carlos Ortiz, Tom Hoge, Brian Harmon, Taylor Gooch, Tyler Duncan, Sepp Straka, and Adam Long have all 34 or more starts. I think one guy has 35 there, so Carlos Ortiz, I believe, is the name. Okay, now let's go into the data here. We're going to start off with max strokes gained total over the last 10 weeks. Tony Finau, well, that's what you see on your screen, the graphic, but first I'm going to start off with my data set, which, of course, spans 46 tournament weeks, as I just mentioned. Tony Finau has played in 6 more events than Dustin Johnson, but has 9 starts that have finished with 2 or more strokes gained. Sung J M, JT Poston, Hideki Matsuyama, and Russell Henley check in with 7. In all, 18 of the 132 golfers have gained 2 or more strokes 5 times over this data set. So a pretty good field here this week. That's a pretty good indication of how strong it is. When we look at it in terms of percentage of starts and strokes gained over 1.5 as the metric, Dustin Johnson is not surprisingly holds the lead here. 50% of his starts end up with at least a stroke and a half total strokes gained. There are only 3 golfers in the field that have over 40% rate, other than Johnson, of course. Matsuyama 48, Hovland 40, and Christopher Ventura 40%. But I can almost assure you that if strokes gained were counted last week, that would not be the case. Okay, Dustin Johnson's, as now we look in turn and look at the graphic that you do see on your screen if you're on YouTube, it's just talking about the max strokes gained total for the last 10 weeks or so. And Dustin Johnson, his performance at the Northern Trust was exactly 11 weeks ago and was very impressive, gaining 6 strokes on the field total, which is just we don't see that very often at all. Other good performances that we want to take note of: Sergio Garcia, obviously his win. Doc Redman has popped up. Harry Higgins, JT Poston, and Sung J M. Even though he doesn't have a top 10, he still is up here. He's gotten about as close to a top 10 as you can get. Now, when we switch over to percentage of starts, 4 golfers have gained at least 1.25 total strokes or more 3 times in the... Oh, now I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself here. Apologize there. Dustin Johnson and Tony Finau are joined by Lanto Griffin and Zach Johnson as the golfers that have gained more than 1.25 total strokes 3 or more times in the past 11 weeks. Sorry, I had lost my notes there. Certainly apologize. Okay, moving on to Tee to Green now. Notes here I have, obviously, Sergio Garcia, Scotty Scheffler, Russell Henley, and Harold Varner are names that you are going to see pop up. I guess my dog seems to enjoy that as well. Sorry, I didn't even know he was in here when I was recording. I certainly apologize on that, but hopefully you guys are dog or puppy fans, and you guys can get by that little woof that he decided to talk there. The last guy I mentioned was Harold Varner, so maybe that's the guy we want to be betting on this week, as maybe my dog, Choco, a chocolate lab, was trying to inform us. Might be a good play this week. Now, going into Tee to Green, how many golfers can you say without hesitation that if they had a putter or knew how to putt, they would win a lot more on tour? I can come up with 5 pretty much right off the top of my head. Hideki Matsuyama is probably number 1 or 2. Corey Connors up there. Luke List is up there. Byung-Hyun Ahn is definitely up there. And Sergio Garcia would be the top 5 names that come just right off the top of my head. But Hideki Matsuyama certainly is one of them. He's gained over 1.75 strokes tee to green 12 times in this data set, 4 more than any other golfer. But believe it or not, he gets really hot tee to green, but Dustin Johnson's actually more consistent when we bring down the barometer in terms of total starts where they end up with at least 1.25 strokes gained tee to green. Johnson's done it in 60%, Hideki around 52%. A couple of other golfers that come in above 40% are Sergio, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, Harold Varner, and Russell Henley, the names that you see there. Okay, A couple of other names that I want to bring up here, guys that maybe if they find a putter this week, could be in for a good start as they've gained at least 2 strokes tee to green over the last 10 weeks. Or I should say at least a stroke and a half. Sam Burns, Kevin Tway, Emiliano Grillo, John Ha, Harold Varner, and James Hahn. Taylor Gooch also up there. Okay, let's move on to our off the tee. But before we do, want to remind you to smash that like button for me, and makes me know that you enjoy the content and like it, and obviously we'll keep doing it if that's the case. So let's go into strokes gained off the tee. First, the notes: Will Gordon, Johnny Vegas, Wyndham Clark, Sergio Garcia, and Corey Connors. You're going to see those guys pop up on that graphic there below as golfers that have gained at least a stroke or more off the tee in the last 10 weeks. A couple of other names on that list: Max Homa, Jason Day, Wyndham Clark. Oh, I already said Wyndham Clark. Sorry. Funny enough, Sam Burns there. Not funny enough. Jason Duffner is the funny one that I see there. Okay, now let's go into our data set here. And when we are looking at guys that are gaining at least a stroke or more off the tee, Corey Connors is the only guy that has done it 7 times. Victor Hovland has done it 6. Garcia, Burns, Vegas, and Keith Mitchell, they've all done it 5 times. Consistency now, where I'm going to look at golfers that have gained that have gained a half a stroke in 50% or more of their starts. Got a lot of the names that I just mentioned, like Sergio Garcia, Corey Connors, Sam Burns, Johnny Vegas, Victor Hovland, Dustin Johnson, Sungjae Im, and they're joined by Doc Redmond, who certainly has proven that he matches up his accuracy and distance pretty well, especially in events that end up pretty low scoring, because he gives himself the most birdie opportunities. Or not, I shouldn't say the most, a lot of birdie opportunities. Okay, now strokes gained on the approach here. Some of the notes that I have are Emiliano Grillo, Victor Hovland, Russ Henley, and Corey Connors. So Corey Connors, again, ball striking machine, no doubt about it. But no one has been better than Dustin Johnson. He had gained 3 strokes at the Northern Trust. A couple of other names, though, that you see on the graphic in front of you. Russell Knox, certainly a name to keep on the lookout for. Jordan Spieth, also up there, having gained at least a stroke or more in the last 10 weeks in a start. Justin Harding shows up. Robbie Shelton, Taylor Gooch again. A couple of other names, Carlos Ortiz, Zach Johnson, and the like. So all these guys have performed well with their irons at least once over the last 10 weeks. So certainly could do it again here this week. When we switch over to our data set, the trio of golfers up at the top having gained at least a stroke on the approaches 10 times. They are Victor Hovland, Russ Henley, and Emiliano Grillo. Those golfers, I would say, would give themselves the most quality birdie looks per round, as they've gained over a stroke on their approaches the most times. There are 3 of 4 golfers who have also gained over a half a stroke in 60% of their starts, joined by Corey Connors. Other golfers, that 12 of them in this field that have gained at least half a stroke in 50% of their starts on their approaches include Ty Hatton, Cam Tringale, Tom Hoagie, Russell Knox, Scott Stallings, and yes, even the withdraw. I guess I'll call him. I don't know if he's the king. I have to go look him up. Henrik Stenson is who I'm talking about. Jason Day, Louis Oosthuizen, Pat Perez, Kevin Na. All 5 of those guys certainly are a withdraw candidate each and every week. Maybe not major weeks, but every other week. Okay, now around the green, if you do believe, which I think so, as I'm kind of leading into it here, that around the green could be important this week as we have 5 par 5s, and the scrambling for birdies, I think, will be very important this week. The notes that I have, some of the best performers in this data set: Jordan Spieth, Brian Harman, Keegan Bradley, Dylan Fratelli. Those are just a couple of the names. Each of those names have gained at least a stroke. Oops, I'm going too fast. I'm sorry. Apologize, everybody. They've gained at least a stroke around the green 6 times. A couple of other people have done it 5, including Ryan Armour and Alex Noren. And over the last 6 weeks, if we're looking for guys that might be coming in with a good feel around the green, 11 golfers have gained at least a quarter of a stroke around the green 3 times in the past 10 weeks. Some of those include Mark Hubbard, Mackenzie Hughes, Carlos Ortiz, Siwoo Kim, and Michael Kim, who this guy needs to make a cut this week. I really hope he does. He was pretty close last week there in Bermuda, so maybe it'll click for him here in Houston. Okay, let's go on to putting now, our last one, which Denny McPutts McCarthy is, of course, in the field, and maybe we should call Maverick McPutts McNeely as well. as both of those guys are some of the best in this field in putting. Andrew Putnam, Patrick Rogers, Jordan Spieth, and Beau Hossler are a couple of others. In terms of the last 10 weeks, Maverick McNeely's performance will be very hard to eclipse. Other guys, though, that have put well, Hunter Mahan, how about that name? Love to see it. Zach Johnson also, Russell Henley. Anytime you see him gain over 2 strokes, he's going to have a real good chance to win, and he, in fact, did. Kevin Chappell's also played well as Charlie Hoffman and Brian Harmon. JT Poston also there. Now, if you're looking for golfers that consistently gain strokes with their putter, so that would mean if they get hot in their ball striking, they are likely to have a good finish, is JT Poston. He's gained at least a quarter of a stroke in 74% of his starts. Patrick Rogers, Wyndham Clark, Brandt Snedeker, and Bryce Garnett, they're all over 60%, as well as some of the other guys like Gooch, Putnam, Hossler, Spieth, McNeely, and the like. Okay, well, like I said, because we don't have any course history here, sadly, that's going to do it. But I was still able to get 16 minutes, probably because, I'm doing video here, and we've got a little bit more to see and a little bit more to show. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, gotten a little bit more out of it, rather than just hearing my voice. Of course, if you listen to this, though, on the podcast form, don't be afraid. It's still going to be in that format, still going to be able to be downloaded on all of your favorite podcast providers, Apple Podcasts, whatever you listen to, Spotify, whatever it is. So until next time, everybody, thank you for joining my Fit in the Form podcast. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the Against the Grain for a look at ownership on the upcoming slate. And of course, Live Before Lock with Ben Raza, 8:30 p.m. as we look to continue our hot streak of hot takes. I like that little double there. So until then, everybody, good luck this week if I don't talk to you, and we will see you on the other side. Cheers.